Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the ranking member for those very sweet words. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the time. And I echo what ranking member Engel said about my trusted staff director, Eddie Acevedo, who's this is his last week with us. He starts on Monday. He's got the whole weekend to party on. Starts Monday with USAID, and he's been my partner from all of these battles and in favor of freedom and democracy and against autocratic regimes, which brings us to this bill before us, Mr. Speaker. And I rise in strong support of this bill, H.R. 2658, the Venezuelan Humanitarian Assistance and Defense of Democratic Governance Act of 2017. And I'm proud to be, as the chairman said, the Republican lead on this important legislation. I've been proud to work side by side with the author of the bill, our ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee, Mr. Eliot Engel, in putting this bill together. Eliot has been a leading voice in this legislative body in support of freedom and democracy across the globe, as has our esteemed chairman. Eliot has really focused in on this hemisphere, and especially on Venezuela, and I want to thank him for his leadership on this issue. And I also want to thank his trusted advisor sitting 2 seats away from him on all Western Hemisphere related items, Eric Jacobstein. He's my buddy from Haiti. We've enjoyed as much as one can enjoy going to an island nation that needs so much help. But the people of Haiti are beautiful, and it's been a joy to travel with Eric and with Eddie. And throughout the years, Eric has worked closely with us, with our office. We work in a bipartisan manner. That's the tone that our esteemed chairman has set for the committee. And Eric and Eliot, that's the way that we work as well. And their knowledge and expertise on this topic has been instrumental to our committee. And the bill before us, Mr. Speaker, H.R. 2658, it is simple, it is straightforward, it is important. Maduro, like Chavez before him, 2 thugs, has turned Venezuela from a once vibrant and thriving nation into a country on the brink of utter collapse. The results have been disastrous for the people of Venezuela. There's food shortage, there's water shortage, there's a severe lack of medicine, a severe lack of medical supplies, the lack of goods and services everywhere you turn. The people need to get proper nutrition, they need proper care, they can't find it. It's a crisis that Maduro and his thugs have denied exists, because he's eating very well. The other day he was making a public declaration televised, and he opens up the drawer, he takes an empanada, and he's stuffing his face. But the people are starving. But recognizing it would mean that Chavismo has utterly failed, so they refuse to recognize this. And so what happens? The Venezuelan people suffer from severe malnutrition. They're subject to price controls. It is unbelievable, the prices of items there. If they can never get the food, if they can never get the services they need, the people can't afford them. And they're subject to substandard and unhygienic conditions. This has led to a sharp rise in infant mortality. And really, mortality rates across the board in Venezuela have gone up. In short, the majority of people in Venezuela are living in misery. What was once the breadbasket of the whole hemisphere, people don't have food, they're living in misery. The Maduro regime is not only to blame, but it is ensuring that the humanitarian situation gets even worse. It was Maduro who ordered the Supreme Court to block a law from the opposition that would have helped facilitate humanitarian aid from NGOs and other international entities. As a result, it is ever so difficult to get the supplies needed to respond to this crisis into Venezuela, to the people who so desperately need it. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, this bill is so important. It directs USAID, the institution where Eddie will be a partner in just a few short days, and our great Department of State, to develop a plan in order to determine if and how the U.S. can possibly help with some of the humanitarian assistance through credible and independent NGOs, non-governmental organizations that are operating in Venezuela or neighboring countries, to ensure that this assistance does get to the people who desperately need it. The bill also directs our ambassador to the United Nations to use our full voice, our full vote, our full influence of the United States to place the humanitarian and political crises in Venezuela on the agenda at the UN. Mr. Speaker, this body, alongside our in New York at the UN, we have worked to hold rogue regimes accountable for failing to allow humanitarian assistance in their countries. Whether it's Syria, whether it's Yemen, this body has spoken in a unified manner that humanitarian assistance should not be prevented from reaching the people. But on Venezuela, Mr. Speaker, if I could have 30 seconds, Mr. Chairman.
I yield an additional minute to the gentlelady from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But on Venezuela, Mr. Speaker, it seems as if we hold a different standard, and that is just unacceptable. For too long, Venezuela has been shielded from criticism and action at the UN by its cronies, like the equally corrupt and morally reprehensible Castro regime in Cuba. This is precisely the kind of situation to which the UN was created to respond. Yet, to date, the response has been woefully inadequate, shamefully void of substance. We've got to lead on this effort, and this bill is what we need. There are millions of people suffering in Venezuela. We're in the situation to help. And I'd like to point out to our chairman and the ranking member that we had some excellent news in the minutes that we've been speaking, that the Senate Foreign Relations Committee approved the nomination of our former committee chief of staff, Yelem Poblet, for Assistant Secretary of State for Verification and Compliance, and it now goes to the full Senate. And I know that she will be with us on these measures that attack atrocious regimes and help alleviate the humanitarian crisis. I thank the chairman and I thank the ranking